Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello, Billy Ho here. Welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Today we're going to talk a little fantasy football. Upcoming draft season is getting underway. A lot of home leagues, a lot of best ball leagues. People are really, really excited for the upcoming year. So I thought, well, you know what? I need to start doing my own draft research and start getting my own stuff together. And I've been profiling players. I looked up a whole bunch. I did a whole series on the new rookies and new faces, new places. So there's a handful of guys, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, quarterbacks on my channel. Check that out if you like. And what I want to do today is I want to show you some of the draft day steals. And people use these words, steals, sleepers, blah, blah, blah. These value, whatever label you want to put on it. This is going to be PPR leagues of 10 to 12 or so
Football!
people. So I know you guys see these videos all the time, and I probably will overlap a lot of players you've already know or seen, but I'm hoping that I'm going to point out some players to you where they're going in drafts that maybe will spark your interest, and hopefully the players that I profile will come after your first 4 to 6 picks, so the mid to late rounds, and hopefully they'll give your team both balance and upside. That's what we're looking for. And just a little bit about me. I've been doing this fantasy football thing since we used the newspaper for the stats. That's like pre-internet. We had internet, but it was just infancy. There wasn't anything out there. So basically, it was touchdown leagues, and the newspaper was the Bible. So that's how we used to add our points by hand. So pretty long way since then, right? So anyway, if the interest is there, I'm going to continue this series because there's a lot of players out there that I could have put in this video. But anyway, diamonds in the rough, whatever you want to call them, we're going to get started. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Smash that like button and leave me a comment. Let me know who you might be thinking as a draft day steal. Let's get started. Okay, I'm going to start with a running back that's probably not typically on everybody's radar right away as one of the top flight running backs, but everybody was gaga over this player back in 2021. His name's Cam Akers, Los Angeles Rams. Then he tore his Achilles. Well, he sat that whole season, and everybody was on, the backups and all that good stuff. And he actually came back at the end of that season when they were making a playoff run and was predictably bad. I don't know why they brought him back. A lot of people questioned it, but so anyway, he opened up last season as the starter and then had this big clash with the coaching staff and was benched after one or first couple of weeks of the season. Anyway, we don't really know, but toward the end of the year, he got out of the doghouse and got a shot, and he delivered 3 straight 100-yard games to close the season out. I believe he was like a top 5 running back the last 4 weeks of the season and was a league winner probably for a lot of people. So anyway, I think that proves something to the coaching staff. He's 2 years removed from the Achilles, and he's going to serve as the number 1 back this season for the Rams. So the Rams will have a healthy Stafford back, and Cooper Kupp is back along with Tyler Higbee. And really, that's about it. I mean, they have some ancillary guys that they run out there, but Sean McVay is a coach that's going to adapt his scheme to fit the style that they need to play to win games. So basically, what I think is the Rams still have a pretty formidable defense, and they're not predicted to win a whole lot of games, like 6-7 games on the season. So with an improved offensive line, from what I'm hearing, is going to be more ball control. So what I mean by that is more touches for Akers. And he's basically, with Henderson gone, he's basically the number 1 guy, and he's got a couple of dudes behind him, but I think he's going to get the lion's share. We're talking 65% of the running back shares probably. I also think he's going to get a few more targets. He didn't really catch, or he hasn't caught a whole lot of passes in his young career just yet, but I think he's going to get 3 to 5 a game. Be honest with you, because the lack of weapons in the passing game, and a year older with Matthew Stafford, the arms may be losing a little bit of power strength, so he's going to do a lot of more dumping off, in my opinion. So basically, people I think will look to avoid him in PPR leagues because of the fact that he hasn't caught a lot of passes recently. So I think Akers could actually give you a startable running back in PPR leagues, and in this fifth, sixth round where I've got him going. So I think what he can allow you to do, if you want to call it zero RB or whatever, you can reach up for Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, or you can reach up for a Kelsey. You can not waste a draft pick, but you can utilize early draft picks on stud wide receivers, and then around round 5 is where you can snatch him up. And another guy I do believe that you can get around round 5 is Alexander Mattison. People seem to have forgotten him a little bit. He was basically everyone's favorite handcuff the last couple of seasons when they had Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. And now Dalvin Cook's been released. He's the number 1 running back on arguably one of the most explosive offenses in the league. I mean, you got the passing attack with Hockenson and Justin Jefferson are 2 of the top tight end or top skill position players going off the board early like that. Then you have, a few other pass catching options. So he's going to be double-digit touchdown upside. I think that they're going to win games. I think every time the guy got 15 plus touches, he produced. So if he can get touchdown upside with goal line work and the way they're going to move the ball up and down the field, actually with the rookie Addison aboard too, I couldn't think of him just a second ago. So basically what I'm looking at is double-digit touchdowns, 1,000 yards rushing, 35 to 40 catches. Now, 35 to 40 catches is probably a little ambitious. He might only get 25 to 30, but that's still basically going to be Dalvin Cook's numbers from last season. And where are you getting him? Probably in the 5th round. So that's something to consider. Now, moving over to wide receiver, the first guy I wanted to look at, and I profiled him as well, is Brandon Cooks. I see him going as late as round 9. He probably will go a little sooner than that. It's going to depend on the fanfare in your league, probably. People know his name. He's been in the league 10 years, and he's been a stability guy. So if they're looking for a safe guy on a new team that's a Cowboys are, obviously a lightning rod for attention. So he and the guy that's going to get the second most targets in the pass game to Dak throwing him the ball, Lamb's going to get his 9 to 12 targets, obviously. And I also think Gallup is still going to be a wallflower like he's been his entire career, barring the injury. I didn't think he was all that impressive before he got the injury. So he's just not an aggressive guy. I don't know what's wrong with him. And I've mentioned that in previous videos. And obviously Dalton Schultz leaving the team vacated a tight end position that might end up doing more blocking detail. So with all that said, the new offensive coordinator in Dallas wants to throw the ball more. He actually resurrected Geno Smith and made him into a quarterback and fought with the head coach Pete Carroll about throwing the ball even more. So I think instead of last year being the down year for the Cowboys with just 32 pass attempts per game, I can see them back up to 37 times a game like they were the previous season. Give Cooks about 17% share of the passing targets, 7 a game, 6-7 a game. Solid wide receiver 3 with 2 upside. Sounds all right to me. Next, I wanted to profile a couple of tight ends. There's a ton of tight ends out there too, so that's why I think I'll do more videos. But the first thing I wanted to mention was tight end. Obviously, I just mentioned him, Dalton Schultz. The Texans drafted quarterback C.J. Stroud, number 2 overall. He's going to be on a bad team that's going to throw a lot, obviously. And what more important to a rookie quarterback than a tight end to throw it to? Dalton Schultz can be that safety blanket, I think. He's not a real explosive tight end, but he's just that guy that's a really good route runner and knows how to get open. His targets, receptions, all his numbers were down last year, as were the entire Dallas team's offensive stats. So anyway, I still think he can provide some stability in their passing game. And I've seen him even projected for like 100 targets. But I'm a bit more conservative on that. You can see on the screen where I think he'll go at as far as the targets and his production is concerned. I think he can be a top 5 tight end and going in the very late rounds. Also, in similar fashion, almost to the numbers, that's why I included them both in the picture, is Tyler Higbee. And like I mentioned just previously on the Cam Akers take, no real receiving threats other than Cooper Kupp. So Higbee should be targeted often. I think 18 to 20% target share for a tight end sounds pretty great to me. The Rams were down in their passing attempts last season to 32 attempts, and that had everything to do with them shutting Matt Stafford down week 11. They just kind of tripped and stumbled their way through the rest of the season. And I think both these tight ends can be drafted as backups, and you can feel comfortable that you have the backup that can come right in and start if you have injuries on your number one guy. And I also think actually, if you wanted to punt the position, you can take them later on and have them be your starters. So now next up, I'm going to get into a couple of quarterbacks. And the first one I want to mention, obviously, is Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to go way too early in my draft because we're kind of older folks, and we know him as the GOAT for about the last 2 decades. So I think he'll go higher than he should have. So I'm not really too concerned about that. I'll let somebody take him in round 6 or 7, But if you get him, like, especially as a backup in round 10, that would be really, really nice to have. QBs get injured all the time in fantasy, and it's always good to have a backup. So Rodgers has the potential, I think, for probably 4,400 yards passing and 28 to 30 touchdowns. I think the 28 passing touchdowns, and I think he's going to get maybe 1 to 3 rushing because, he's going to try to bring that old discount double check over to the Jets this season to show that he's still got the old school abilities to run the ball and all that kind of good stuff. And the other quarterback that might garner some question marks is Tua Tagovailoa, and he falls into this position as well. But I hear good things out of camp. Our reports are that he's bulking up, putting on some muscle and size a little bit to take measures to increase durability and I guess concussion management. Learning how to fall or whatever, and learning not to hold the ball too long, learning not to run around and take as many hits is always a good thing. I think he can be a top 10 quarterback this season if he can stay on the field. He missed 4 games last year, but it was really more like 6 games because if you remember weeks 3 and 4, he had that concussion debacle where he was only in for just brief periods he got knocked out in the first quarter and then he left early in the next game. So he's a guy, I think, with 2 of them, obviously the most explosive wide receivers in the league. So he's a guy I'll be looking at in those similar rounds as well. I don't know that I'm going to pull the trigger on him as a starter, but if I could get him as a backup, I'd be very happy with that. So anyway, for this last segment, I just kind of wanted to profile a whole team because I think they're interesting, and I may just do this as a norm if I do more of these videos. But the Saints, I was looking at the last segment. I wanted to examine the Saints. So somebody on this team is going to offer some value, right? They bring in Derek Carr, who is a fine passing quarterback. They have Chris Olave as the alpha dog number 1. Now, if you want to take a shot on Michael Thomas, if you can get him that late, I don't know. My league, he may go sooner, but just because people know how good Michael Thomas was. But that was 4 years ago. That was 2019 Michael Thomas. Long time since then. So anyway, I think he could return value as maybe a wide receiver 4 with some upside for 3 if you want to get him later. But like I said, 4 years since he peaked. Alvin Kamara is another one that is, and I don't know if he's the least likely guy. I was thinking that when I first made this script for the video, because they brought in Jamal Williams from Detroit, who just had a career year. And we already know he gets the ball at the goal line. He scored 97 touchdowns last year in Detroit for an offense that was, middling And then you also have Taysom Hill, who they bring in as quarterback on the goal line, who takes it to the house. That dude runs over everybody for goal line touchdowns. So it's going to be really tough to see Alvin Kamara. And then you add in the 3-game suspension, which actually wasn't all that bad. That's really going to damage his stock value. Player that I like to have the most upside for where you can get him is wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. And I think you could get him as late as your very last pick and in your skill positions. He's going to start in the slot, and he has that upside. I played him in DFS on DraftKings several times last year, and he came through in a big way. And you pretty much saw the rapport Derek Carr had in Vegas with Hunter Renfrow in the slot. So I could see if he can get 12 to 13% target share on a team that's going to throw it 35 times a game, most likely. Now they could, more or less, but I think 4 to 5 targets a game is no problem for him. So, but also if he's not working out, he's your first guy to drop. So basically that's, how it kind of works out for you. So that's going to be it for this first set of videos on steals of draft day. Maybe I'll just make a whole series, volume 1. So volume 2 might be coming out in the next several days. Be on the lookout. Thanks for watching. Till then, see you soon.